So welcome to our online learning session today. We are talking to Gavin Clinch, who is our Head of Online Learning Student Experience, and Jennifer Gilligan, who is in our instructional design team and has expertise in our virtual learning platform, Moodle. We're going to talk to you today about how students get started with online learning. A lot of our students are starting in September. They've maybe been accepted onto a course, they're starting the registration process and are wondering what happens next. So hopefully we'll be able to provide a bit of clarity around the key steps and an insight into your journey with us. So Gavin, I will start with yourself, if that's okay. If you could just give a quick overview of what the students should expect when they are commencing their online studies with us.
Okay, thanks Cleo. Obviously, once, as you mentioned, once they're registered and they're approved onto a program, and they'll have a number of communications around that from our admissions team. But the next big event for them will be Induction Week, an online induction and orientation week, commencing Monday the 21st of September, later this year than previously. And that week will be made up of a number of live events and as well as some offline resources. So the live events will be timetabled, and they will be, by and large, presentations from members of staff at IT Sligo. There'll be a welcome address from our president, Dr. Brendan McCormack, and there will be a presentation from Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Michelle Glacken, and she will talk about academic integrity, plagiarism, and exams, which is a big area that a lot of students want to know about. Exams, when they'll be, how they work, how they're taken. I think we're going to touch on that later in the interview.
Sure.
And then there'll be a presentation from our head librarian on how they can access the library, how they can access them remotely, and also request books that can be posted out to them. And then there will be some offline activities or resources, again, around academic integrity, which is really critical to us in the online environment, and academic success. Courses that will, and I say courses, these are literally a 2-hour self-paced resource that the students can work through. And it's really about supporting them and getting back into higher education and their return to higher education. And then we'll also have introductions from program coordinators, from heads of departments, and from individual lecturers. Now, some programs may decide to bring their students in on campus for an activity, and that's really going to be down to the program teams and the viability of bringing people in at that time. And then the other big thing about the induction week is the demonstrations and exercises which are designed to help the student become familiar with Moodle, which is our virtual learning environment, or our virtual classroom.
Very good.
So as they look out for that, and there'll be information going out to students on that.
Definitely worthwhile making the time to attend the induction and get started on the right foot, I suppose, in terms of getting your online learning journey off the ground. Just something that we've obviously mentioned a couple of times now already is the Moodle environment. And I think students probably get a sense of that when they're applying as to how that's working, but a lot of questions probably exist around what does it look like, how will I actually study online? And maybe, Jennifer, given this is your area of expertise, would you be able to kind of talk us through, when somebody gets registered with the college, they get access to Moodle. What will they see when they log into Moodle? This is the key tool for them, I suppose, as they learn with IT Sligo.
Sure, Leo, no problem. Well, all our online courses are available at any time, and you simply log in to that virtual learning environment we've referred to, and it's commonly known as Moodle. So you can access any of your modules at any time and all of the content. So if you don't mind, I'll show you a little demo here of when you log into Moodle, what it looks like, and give you a little tour of a module.
Great, yeah, that sounds good.
So here we have the dashboard screen, which is what you see once you log into Moodle. So you see all your modules listed within the dashboard. So they're really easy to access. All you have to do is click on each one and you can access the content. You'll see here I've set up a typical student interface. So there are many supports available to all our students, and I've just put a selection here so that you can see them. We have an online student support page dedicated to all the typical questions that students would have during an academic term, and it's available all during the year. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So once you click on it, it gives you access to an infographic with all the student supports. And if I scroll down here, it gives you access into all the information that you might require during the year, from how to use Moodle to our methods of communication in Moodle, how to access recorded classes and live classes, and your student email. So it's a really good resource that's there all the time on the dashboard. And you'll also see some student supports that Gavin had mentioned, such as the Academic Success course, which again is self-paced. So you go in and access materials as you see fit. Very handy for preparing yourself for the changes that might happen between maybe you're returning to third level after a break of time, preparing and organising yourself for study, and also even preparing essays and referencing. The Academic Integrity course is quite useful for that. So if I click in here to our demo course, it's simply displayed as a sample of what you might expect to see in any typical module. So you'll see your lecturer and key information in terms of any lecture, live lecture times. So in this example, we can see that there's a live lecture here on Wednesday from 7 to 8, and there's a link here to your live online classroom. You'll also see key communication here at the top of every module, where you'll see news from your lecturer. So any important information that your lecturer sees fit to communicate with you will be contained within the forum. So you'll see a little icon next to it here, and just visually you'll get used to these icons in Moodle. This indicates that a discussion forum area is here, and we can click on it to read some news from the lecturer. So here we see the lecturer has welcomed you to week 1. And if there is any key assignments due, your lecturer will probably put these into the news area as well. So if we go back out into our little demo module, there is also an area at the top of the screen for you to ask any questions. So this is where you get to communicate with your peers and with your lecturer and ask key questions about the module. So as you can see, it's as simple as clicking on add a new discussion topic. And if we click here, we can see how someone else has actually posted a question. So one of our peers in our module has asked a question, and this is just a little sample, but they've also added in a link to some key resources that they have found. So the forums can be used for this type of communication, sharing resources, learning from each other, supporting and helping each other. So not only is the lecturer involved in your learning, your peers are also key to your own learning, and sharing information among you is very important. So the forums are a great place for that type of communication.
Great.
So I'll just go back out here, and I'll also show you what a typical module page looks like in Moodle, with the contents divided out into weeks. So you'll see the week that's relevant to you. So in this example, we can see week 1. And this is our title, Software Project Management, on this module. So you may get an overview of the topic that is being covered. And you'll see next to each one, there's a little icon again. So you get used to these icons. This one is a Word doc, and this one is a PowerPoint. So lecturers can upload material in here, maybe even prior to your live lecture, for you to get an overview. And any assignments that may be due will be visible here under the assignments, and any additional resources. So you could even be asked to carry out a little quiz or something based on some piece of material that you have covered.
Great, that's all, I suppose, very straightforward. It's all self-contained in one area, and the resources obviously just build there as the weeks progress in that particular module. So I suppose it's reassuring for people to see that. And if somebody has a live lecture scheduled, are planned, how do they progress from there into a live lecture? Is that something they've access to from that section?
Yes, that's right. So everything is in Moodle. So if we go back up to the top of the screen, this is our key communication area, as I mentioned before. So that's where you would find your link to your live classroom. So in this example, every Wednesday, we would just click on that particular link and it'll bring us straight into our live lecture. So I'll show you here what that screen would look like. So this would be a typical live lecture screen. So the lecturer may put up some material for you to look at, and they may talk through it. They can use pointers, they can draw on slides, or they can even demonstrate particular software. So for example, if you were studying on a project management module, it would be essential that you would see some sort of software in action, so they can share their screen with you. You have many tools in here as well. So you have a little chat box area where you can actually type in any questions that you have. So based on something that you're watching on the screen, you can actually ask a question. You can raise your hand. You can ask the lecturer to maybe speak louder, slow down, or the lecturer may ask you your opinion or give you a poll based on some of the contents. So you actually get to vote, see what other people think, and it can be quite interactive. It's a really easy space to navigate, and they will also share their webcam with you. So you get the opportunity to see your lecturer. In some instances, they may allow you to use your microphone. So there's real interaction taking place in the live classroom.
Yeah, and I suppose that's something we hear quite a lot, that it's really valuable to attend the live lectures if you can, because you do get the opportunity to interact, you do get the opportunity to participate in the class when it's going on. So it's great to see that. Obviously, all very straightforward and familiar tools that people are using at the minute, a lot to communicate. So that's bound to be reassuring for students that everything is accessible and very easy to get to. I just might move on from that for now and just maybe go back to Gavin and just ask a quick question, because now we've seen how students get started on Moodle. They can see their course page, they can see their module page. One of the things that obviously you mentioned earlier was exams, and just how students are actually able to participate in exams, given that they are obviously online learners. So what's your thoughts on that, or what feedback do you have for students?
Yeah, it's always a big question, and typically our exams would be on campus or at a centre in Dublin or centre in Cork. So 3 physical venues that the students can go to take end of term final exams. But what happened in semester 2 of the last academic year is that we weren't able to have, obviously with physical distancing, we couldn't have those exams. So lecturers were very, very quick to redesign their final exam into an alternative assessment. And as we transition through the pandemic and we look to see where things are in terms of exams, which will be in January of 2021, we will have to look and see, will we continue with the alternative assessments, which will be carried out offline, or can we hold physical exams and revert to the exams? So I don't have a definitive answer right now. It will depend on how things happen with the pandemic. It could be that we have these 3 locations and access to those for exams, or probably more likely that there will be some form of online assessment, which can be, they can access that through Moodle, that Jennifer talked about as an assignment. Okay. It could be an open book exam done in Moodle, or an alternative type of assignment. Okay. Also, just to mention that in the past, we have run online exams, which are invigilated online, and that's done by a third-party company, and you watch through your webcam. So if I was taking an exam now, then the invigilator would see me, as you can there, and would also see my screen as I'm typing in my answers to questions. But again, those facilities were closed down because of the companies that were operating them could not operate at that time.
Okay. So it's an evolving situation, but
Yeah.
you know, we are coming up with alternative solutions depending on what situation we're in, is kind of to reassure
Exactly.
that there will be some way to progress and have that kind of final exam, whether it's continuous assessment or whatever.
Yeah, and I suppose, look, if we think of semester 2, which will be May of 2021, perhaps at that stage the pandemic would have been dealt with, and so I suspect that we will be back to those exams in an old-fashioned exam hall with students traveling to take them.
Sure, that's good. Thanks for that overview. We mentioned just, I suppose, the assessments and exams and things like that. Again, just to briefly touch on it, Jennifer, in Moodle you have the ability, do you, to view your assessments and take quizzes and things like that, is it? And upload your assignments? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's simple because you just go back into Moodle and everything is contained there. So you're only going to one place and you only have to use one interface. So if you don't mind, I'll show you again. I'll go back into that demo screen and I'll show you how we navigate around that. So back in this demo module, if I'm in week 1, I have all my contents and any assignments are appearing under the assignments label. So here I can see that the lecturer has provided an outline for me, which is a detailed brief of what is required within that assignment. Showing you an example here of the percentages and the marking scheme and everything else.
Very good.
And if I go back, I have a little upload area here. So once I've actually completed my assignment, it's so easy. I just click on the upload area and I click on add submission. And it gives me this little drop box area. So I can just drag and drop the file in there and save it. And alternatively, as Gavin has mentioned earlier, there are quizzes that a lecturer may set up. They can be practice quizzes. So every week you may get a quiz just to practice the topic and see where you stand in terms of your knowledge. And if I click here on one example, I can show you what it looks like. This is a simple multiple choice. I'm given a set of questions. I finish my attempt, and it's as simple as that.
Very good, great. So it is, again, just all contained within the Moodle system and on your program page and on your module page. The options are all presented to you there. So I suppose it's just, we're trying to give people reassurance that everything is all there for the online learners, similar to, I suppose, the on-campus learners. Maybe that's been their experience to date, you know, that all the tools are available to them even if they're remote. Some things that we do get questions about at the minute is around the practical side of things. So a number of our courses, because I suppose we have a lot of science and engineering based courses that are online, they have practical elements which would be part of the compulsory elements of the course. Gavin, I suppose questions are coming up again, given the situation we're in. How do we see that operating for the forthcoming semester?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's an important question. As you say, in engineering and science, we do have courses that require attendance for students to work in laboratories or engineering labs. And obviously, full-time students have access to those labs as well. And with the physical distancing, there is a challenge there. The lecturers and the program teams that are over those programs where lab work is critical are working on, I suppose, front loading the course with recorded demonstrations or live demonstrations, so the students won't be going into the labs at the start of the semester, and then trying to facilitate them coming in later in the year. But it will have to be managed, because obviously with physical distancing, that's going to reduce the numbers that can come in. So there will be some physical attendance for labs where it's possible, but there will also be live online demonstrations. And the Institute is also looking at other software such as Labster, which they can use, and students can interact with that as well.
Great.
I mean, in engineering for a long time, we've had a kind of live robotics room where we've got a robot that a student can write a program for remotely, and then they can watch that robot carrying out the commands that they've given it. So there are plenty of technologies that will facilitate, but I do appreciate that students, like any kind of lab work, you want to get into the room, you want to get hands-on and work with something.
Yeah.
But again, it is evolving situation where we will have these issues resolved as we work through the semester.
And students shouldn't worry about it. I suppose it is something that we very much are aware of, and there's plans being put in place to ensure we comply with the guidelines, but also ensure people can progress as they need to, with all the skills that they need. So I think that kind of sums up everything we wanted to talk about today in terms of how students can get started with online learning. I think it's provided a really good overview. The induction is key. Get started on the right foot, come to the induction, learn as much as you can, and then get familiar with Moodle, because that's going to be the key to help you understand and get all the access to all the resources that you need as an online learner with IT Sligo. Just like to thank Gavin and Jennifer for their time, and if any student wants to find out any more about these topics, please contact our admissions team, which is admissions@IT Sligo, or visit our website itsligo.ie/online learning.